want you to close your eyes and imagine yourself being sentenced to death for a crime that you didn't commit. This has been the reality for over 200 people since 1973, according to the Death Penalty Information Center. Even if only one person was wrongly executed, I think that's too many. I've always loved listening to true crime stories, and this interest has inspired me to do some research on the death penalty over the past few weeks. As college students, I think that we're all trying to form our own opinions on issues like this. The death penalty in particular is relevant to all of us because it takes into account the justice and fairness of our legal system. The death penalty should be abolished because it doesn't deter crime, it violates the Constitution, and there's a major risk of executing innocent people. I'll go over each of these points and expand on them. One of the biggest arguments I've heard in favor of the death penalty is that it deters crime, which actually isn't true. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, studies have found that there's no significant difference in crime rates between states that utilize capital punishment and those that don't. This makes a lot of sense in my mind because people who are committing crimes horrific enough to qualify for the death penalty aren't thinking rationally enough to be weighing the pros and cons of facing the punishment. And the criminals who are rational aren't planning on getting caught, so the capital punishment won't deter them either. So if the death penalty isn't stopping criminals from committing crimes, what good does it serve? Not only that, but the use of capital punishment also violates the Constitution. The Eighth Amendment states that excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Yet, isn't injecting lethal drugs into veins cruel and unusual? Some argue that criminals sentenced to death row deserve this type of punishment, and on an emotional level, I really do sympathize with this argument. But the reason that the Eighth Amendment was put into place is to protect against these types of emotional responses. I just think that giving the government power to control who lives or dies is a slippery slope to go down. England in the 17th century went down this road, and they were punishing people with torture and execution for minor crimes. Today in the US, the federal government only allows capital punishment for murder, but also for treason and espionage. For example, there was a couple in 1953 who was executed for allegedly spying on Russia. Many historians argue that they were innocent, but even if they weren't, does someone really deserve to die for spying on another country? Why couldn't they have just gone to prison? I think it's concerning that our government has the power to decide who lives and dies, even when guilt isn't certain. Which leads me to my next point, that innocent people are sentenced to death all of the time. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there have been over 200 people exonerated from death row since 1973, and that's just the innocent people that we know of. The reality is that as humans, we make mistakes. There's corruption and there's also genuine errors. Both can be deadly for these people. A man wrongly convicted and sentenced to death in Alabama named Walter McMillian spent 6 years on death row before being proven innocent and getting released. This is a statement he gave to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. I am deeply troubled by the way the criminal system treated me and the difficulty I had in proving my innocence. I am also worried about others. I believe that there are other people under sentence of death who, like me, are not guilty. It's tragic when this situation happens, and it undermines everything the legal system stands for. In conclusion, not only is it ineffective, but it's unconstitutional and it's causing innocent people serious harm that can never be reversed. For these reasons, the death penalty must be abolished. Capital punishment is still enforced in Utah, so I encourage all of you to reach out to your representatives so that we can initiate a change. Let's leave questions of life and death in the hands of God and focus on creating a legal system that is truly just. Thank you.